Every week, there's over 9 billion impressions on the LinkedIn feed and only 3 million people sharing updates. What does that mean for you? It means a lot of eyeballs and not a lot of competition. On top of that, the LinkedIn algorithm is heavily favoring marketers right now, giving a ton of organic reach to those who are doing it right. So in this video, I'm gonna teach you how to get a ton of engagement on your LinkedIn posts and get your content to go viral consistently. Stay tuned. LinkedIn is incredibly enticing to marketers right now for a lot of reasons. It looks a lot like Facebook did back in 2012, 2013, where you could post something from your page and you could actually get people to see it organically without paying for it. LinkedIn is going through a very similar thing right now where they're giving a ton of reach to marketers. So we post more, we talk about it more, we get more people involved. And then over time, I'm sure they will move and push their advertising model a lot further. This opportunity on LinkedIn is not something that's gonna last forever. This is something that you have to take advantage of right now. This is particularly enticing because the LinkedIn algorithm has a much slower decay than other networks. For example, you post something on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter and it's gone within a matter of minutes or hours. LinkedIn, you could post something and 2 weeks later, it could still be sitting at the top of people's news feeds, depending on how much engagement you get on that post. And that's the key to all of this, is figuring out a way that you can get engagement on your posts. The more engagement you get, the longer your posts will linger, the more people will be shown to. On top of that, what's really cool about LinkedIn is that your posts don't just get shown to your network. For example, if I post something and you comment on it, then my post will get shown to your network. That doesn't happen anywhere else. So LinkedIn is giving you the opportunity to truly go viral without having a lot of followers. That's something that's completely unique to this network, and again, something that we have to take advantage of right now in order for this to work. As I just mentioned, the key or the secret or the hack to getting more visibility on your LinkedIn content is simply getting engagement on your posts. LinkedIn has a whole post where they talk about how their algorithm works, and it's something that they call velocity, which basically means when you post something, the quicker that you get more comments, more shares, more likes, then their algorithm will identify your post as something that's engaging and that wants to be shown, and they will show it to more and more people, and it will sit on top of their news feeds, and it will get a lot of eyeballs. So the key here is figuring out how we can post the right content and how we can get the maximum amount of engagement on each one of our posts very quickly. But LinkedIn is distinctly different than any other social network, and we need to talk about those nuances before we get into those tactics. So first and foremost, do not treat LinkedIn as a content promotion channel. What that means is if you have a YouTube video, don't post the link to YouTube on your LinkedIn feed because LinkedIn is going to shut it down, just like they do on Facebook. They don't want you to promote outside networks. What they want you to do is create content natively within LinkedIn. So that means if you have a YouTube video, you should be taking that raw video file and uploading it directly to LinkedIn, because then it will get exposure within LinkedIn. And this is more of a mindset and a mentality than anything, is that you have to treat LinkedIn as its own host. And you have to commit to using and hosting your content on LinkedIn. You can still host in other places, but it's really, really critical that you change your mindset about using LinkedIn as a promotional channel and using it as a hosting channel. And we're gonna talk more about that in a second. What you really wanna use LinkedIn for is almost as a micro blogging platform. I like to treat my LinkedIn feed as more of a long form Twitter, more than 140 characters, almost how you used to use Facebook probably 3-4 years ago, where you would share stories, personal anecdotes, just kind of whatever's on your mind at that day and time. It doesn't have to necessarily be about business. That's kind of the thing that people mistake and mess up about LinkedIn, is that you can get personal and you should get personal, and I'm gonna show you how people have done that and gotten their content to go viral in just a minute. And if you want to ensure that you get the maximum visibility on LinkedIn, you have to make sure that your profile is set to public. Because if it's not, and you post something and I comment on it, it's not going to get shown to my feed because your profile is not public. So I have a link under the video, also in the blog post, make sure to check it out. That will show you exactly how to set up your profile so everyone can see your stuff. It's also important to note that this video and this blog post is talking about posts and not articles. So you can create long form articles on LinkedIn. My data shows that status updates get a lot more visibility than articles do. Articles are better for more evergreen content. Just like you would use Medium or your blog, it's a blogging platform. That's for creating long form blog content. That content can rank really well in organic search. But what I'm referring to in this video is status updates. And when you're creating these status updates, it's really important that you deploy proper copywriting tactics. So something that's the most important thing is using hooks to get people's attention when you're scrolling down the feed, get them to stop and to read more. So LinkedIn will give you about 2 sentences before they hit you with that little see more or read more button, little gray button on the right hand side. The goal is to hook people's attention with your copy, get them to expand that, engage, and then ideally comment, share, like, and then push your post viral. So some very simple tactics that I use to do that. Number one is asking a question. Questions always get people to engage, they get people to comment. So something along the lines of struggling to get your Facebook ads to convert. That's something that hooks people's attention and gets them to read on. Another one is stating a controversial point of view. So I'm not necessarily talking about politics or religion here. I'm talking more about something industry specific that might be happening. Something along the lines of, I don't know, you don't need 100 employees to grow a $100 million business. Here's why. That's a hook that argues a point, and then the rest of your copy underneath that would support either arguing for or against that initial opening hook. Another really good and easy one to use is stating data. So something along the lines of like 44% of all marriages are unhappy. Here's why. Again, just getting that data hook, something that's irrefutable, something that they can't argue with, and then arguing again for or against that point. These simple copywriting tips go a very, very long way to getting people to stop, see your stuff, and then engage more. And the final nuance, and this is the most important one out of all of them, again, LinkedIn, their velocity algorithm is based on how many people you can get to see and engage with your content. So if you don't have a lot of followers on LinkedIn, you're gonna have to rely on external sources to get people to your LinkedIn feed. So LinkedIn has done a really good job of allowing you to copy and paste your status URL, which is also public to other networks and public on the web if your profile is set properly. So what you can do is copy that URL and then promote it elsewhere. So I like to tweet it out. I like to send it to my email list if it's a big enough update. I like to push it to Facebook. I even will boost it on Facebook to get more clicks and visibility to that post if it's a big and important post that I want to get eyeballs on. But all of these things, they help drive people to LinkedIn and engage with it there. And then again, using external sources to drive engagement, which will eventually push your post viral. Now, let's talk about 9 very specific tactics that you can use to get more engagement on your posts. These are things that I found from actual posts on LinkedIn. Again, if you go to the blog post, you can actually see these posts and you can read them in depth for yourself. But I'm gonna cover these 9 tactics that I've come up with that you can use in your updates to drive more engagement just inherently through how they're set up. So tactic number 1 is what I call the relatable story. This is coming from Julia McCoy. She owns a content writing and copywriting company, and she got tired of all the spam that she had on LinkedIn. So she wrote a simple little rant with a little boomerang gif of her slapping her forehead that just talked about something that everyone can relate to, which eventually drove a ton of engagement. I think the video got almost 100,000 views, and her post went viral by simply tapping into something that we all deal with, something that we can relate with, something that people want to talk about, something that people want to like, that people want to share, etc. She noted, because she actually talked about this publicly, about how she didn't get any business from this post. A small thing that I would have done is I would have added in some tips about how to write cold outreach emails, because obviously she owns a copywriting company, so injecting some copywriting tips in there probably would have helped her out from a business point of view, not just from an engagement and virality point of view. Tactic number 2 is what I call the lesson learned. So this is coming from Robert Sweeney, where he talks about an interview that he had, and he turned the guy down, who eventually went on to do really great things. And this is a really good example of talking about your failures and how you can still overcome them. He's obviously a power person, a CEO at a very big company, and he talks about his failures, again, something that we can all relate to, but showing that you can overcome these things. A story like this always generates some positive sentiment, engagement, and a lot of comments on things like this. Tactic number 3 is what I call the thought provoker. And this is coming from Dave Schools. He's got an awesome opening hook here where he just says, I quit my job. Again, something that will stop us in our tracks and get us to read more. And then he writes some really good copy. He is a writer in himself, where he talks about how his personal income went down the drain, how he basically just quit everything and threw away everything to follow his passion. This isn't quite a rags to riches story, but this is a classic American story that we all can relate with. People following their dreams, ultimately overcoming them and becoming successful in what it is that they love to do. This is something that people go nuts for. They love to engage with it. They love to comment on it. And I believe this post got over 1 million views, which is crazy impressive for this very simple copy that he wrote with absolutely no media attached. Very impressive and a very great way to drive a lot of engagement on LinkedIn. Tactic number 4 is what I call the open-ended question. This is coming from Haley Friedman. She's actually a LinkedIn expert herself, and she was telling this really cool story about how she was with venture capitalists, and they were talking about how LinkedIn is really coming up as a power social network and really driving a lot of business for her. And she goes in to cite something called the Social Selling Index, and she drops a link in the comment. Really important, if you do want to drop a link, make sure you drop it in the comment section, not in the body text, because LinkedIn will kill your engagement off that, but they will not penalize you if you put the external link in the comments. She invites you to go check out what your SSI is. She then states what her score is, and she asks you what's yours. Again, she's prompting you to go something. She's playing to your curiosity, to your competitive nature, and then she's asking you to put it back in the comments, again, playing to your competitive nature. People just love to get involved and engage with stuff like this. And again, I believe this post got over 1 million views, which is crazy for an update like this. Tactic number 5 is what I call the personal moment. Again, I mentioned this earlier, is that LinkedIn doesn't have to be about all business. And when you actually go personal, you break through all that business and data and boringness that's all on people's LinkedIn feeds and really captures people's attention. So this example is from John Nemo, another LinkedIn expert, of course. And he went into some very, very personal details about his childhood, dealing with trauma and abuse, and how he's overcome this. And then he invites people to share what they've done in their personal lives and how they've overcome it in their business in the comments. And again, he drove a ton of engagement, and just sharing these very personal stories is a great way to break through the noise, capture people's attentions, and build rapport and trust with people too, and then ultimately get them engaged in the comment section to share their stories as well. Tactic number 6 is what I call the ego bait. And I included an example here. I was out in San Diego a couple weeks ago. I went on Ross Hudgens' show, and this example is him just posting the video, uploading it natively, and then tagging me, and also tagging Brian Dean in the video because he was mentioned in the video. And what this does, LinkedIn is, as I mentioned, you have to get engagement, but if you can get engagement from what LinkedIn refers to as power users or influencers, your velocity is going to go through the roof. So a very simple thing that you can do if you don't have the capability to interview people or do a podcast with people, etc., is to just build somewhat of like a roundup post on LinkedIn where you're tagging influencers. So it could be like the top 10 best marketers in the world. You tag those people, and hopefully you'll get them to engage back, share a comment saying thank you. And then again, if they comment, then that will get shared with their feed, and they could have over 100,000 followers, and you can really get that post to go viral. Tactic number 8 is what I call the hack. And I actually saw Larry Kim, I couldn't find the example, shared a very simple spreadsheet hack that he found. It was like a 10-second video, and he was able to get this post to go, I think, over 500,000 views. I just shared something where on LinkedIn, I'll send a quick DM back to people who spam me, and I just took a very simple screen record video, and I've gotten well over a couple thousand views. Again, if you think about this, a couple thousand views might not seem like a lot, but if you try and get a couple thousand views on YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook, or Twitter, it's incredibly hard. But on LinkedIn, you just upload the video, and the engagement is so high that it gets pushed viral on your behalf. So viral is all relative too. It doesn't have to be 1 million views, but just getting 10,000 views is really, really hard to do. And by sharing these little hacks that people can use every day, people go nuts for them. It drives a ton of engagement. It's a really strong tactic to do that for you. And it doesn't have to be your hack too. You could grab it from someone else. Just make sure that you cite it as theirs. The next tactic is the controversial point of view. And I mentioned this earlier when I was talking about the hooks. Don't go into politics or religion. This is LinkedIn. There is a certain level of professionalism that you'll want to keep. But going after a thought or a point of view in your industry that's kind of ingrained and then arguing for or against it is just a really good way to get people to comment and engage. And even if they're negative, again, that engagement still drives you up. Just make sure that you're always respectful and you're responding positively. Don't get into a little, a catfight situation in the comments. Let people share their point of view. Again, if you're doing something controversial, keep in mind that you're going to generate a lot of negative comments from people, a lot of hate. It's the internet. It is what it is. People talk shit, but it's a great way to drum up engagement. It's not something that I personally use, but it is a tactic that you can deploy if you're struggling to get these other ones off the ground. The final tactic, number 9, is what I call the giveaway. And this is something that I have used to not only generate leads, but sales for my training, the Blueprint training. And basically what I did here is I put together a 5-video mini series that is gated. You have to have an email to get access to it. And it talked about a case study from a client where we got them over 290% increase in traffic. I used that as the hook. I also wrote some long form copy that talked about the case study, but what I did is I had a slide deck that I used within that video presentation. I turned that into a PDF and I uploaded that directly to LinkedIn and I gave that away. Now, if you go through the deck, there's a lot of value in that deck, basically like an ebook. But I tease them that the videos have a lot more information and you really want the videos to get the full insights. So what I said is if you want the videos, just comment and I will DM them to you. And we got over 250 comments from people, generated over 250 emails, obviously to get those videos. And a lot of those, because once I had your email, you were in my funnel, ended up generating sales for the company. So if you're looking for something that's a little bit less engagement based and a little bit more lead generation or sales focused, this method where you give something away, whether it's a coupon or a book, something of value to people in exchange for a comment, you just DM it to them. It's a really great way to drum up a little bit more of a direct marketing. So that's all I got for this video. I just want to say this in closing is that you might be sitting here thinking, a lot of these tactics are just to drive engagement and awareness and reach. It's all fluff. This isn't going to generate sales. And you're right, this is an engagement approach, but I've said it a million times before, and nobody's going to buy from you if they don't know who you are. And it's really, really, really hard to get people's attention on today's internet unless you want to pay for it. So any organic tactic that we can use to generate that reach and engagement and awareness and just get in front of people, just getting them to see your face, getting them to see your brand, getting them to understand what you do is so hard to do. And if you can do that at scale for free with a very little amount of effort, it's an incredible tactic that you should be deploying. Yes, you probably will not generate sales from this, and that's fine again, but this is a very, very important part of that buyer process and getting people to understand who you are before you can begin that marketing process. So take advantage of this while you can, because it's not going to be around forever. And as always, if you guys like this video, please subscribe to our podcast, YouTube channel, Facebook, and Instagram, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.